TEDx community. Next, we are going to get physical with the help of facilities in Afghani schools presented by United World College student Ahmad Farid.
Hi, good morning everyone. I'm Farid Nouri from Afghanistan, student at United World College. And I'll be talking about bringing physical education in Afghanistan that will help the youth to have a better life and, as it says on the screen, cross the borders of deprivation. And now what deprivation means, we'll explore that through the presentation. So let's go through some educational facts that that is in Afghanistan nowadays. It says daily average school hours are 3 hours. So we have every day the students attend 3 hours of school, and since there are a huge number of students going to school in less schools, so the schools try to have 3 schooling hours during the day, from 8 to 11, 11 to 2, and then from 2 to 5. So next, science classes without labs in most of the schools, which still the government has not been able to install laboratories in the schools. And the other thing is 40 mandatory classes, 3 or more are religious. And we have to take all of these, imagine how boring it would be to take all these giant history, geography, all science, and 14 of them. It also says no art, music, and sport in the schools. It was removed during the Taliban regime, and it's not installed yet either. And next, some schools run their classes under tents. As a matter of fact, I used to study under the tents when I was in grade 7th. That was like 6 years ago. So this is one of the tents in the one of the remote areas in Afghanistan. This still happens in Kabul City too. But the schooling goes on with very limited facilities. Now, what's the cause? What happened that we have these problems? 4 decades of continuous war. Everybody knows about that, starting from the Soviet invasion, civil war, and now the Taliban and the U.S. So those things caused floods of immigration to Pakistan and Iran. And most young Afghans, when they immigrated to Pakistan or Iran, they either washed cars, sold bubblegums. These are very basic, very normal examples, or did construction work, but never had a chance to go to school because they had to earn a living there. The Taliban also stopped girls from going to school. They stoned many or some of them to death for various reasons, and they still do that in some of the areas that are not under the control of the government. Many schools were also burnt down during the Taliban regime, usually girls. And this photo shows, as it says, hands behind a closed door of a school. Many of them are being closed nowadays in the areas that the government lose control over. Now this photo, I'm sure you guys are familiar with. It's a woman being shot by a member of the Taliban during their regime in one of the soccer fields in Kabul, and that clearly shows the views of human rights and women's rights, and how women deprived. So, but what happens now? It's we ask the question, what is Bart Simpson or Fred Flintstone? Now, it's funny because talking about the youth, growing like a normal young person, we should watch TV, we should know all these characters, which are world famous cartoon characters, but we don't. This is just an example of the many things we don't have, and I think it's funny. But this proves that Afghan youth do not own a very normal life. And what they do instead, they don't have electricity in their houses, and they don't have things at school that they can have fun. So they're morally isolated from the rest of the world. And instead, they say, I wish to live without wars. And now the question is, how many of you wish the same thing when you were only 10 years old? It's hurtful because, why would not he instead do something else, like, play basketball or have fun with his friends? They don't do because they don't have it. But instead of asking that question, didn't you watch Super Bowl instead? Or enjoy the famous TV show called We? The sentences are not to condemn you guys. It's just an example of, how you guys had an opportunity here, but kids in Afghanistan, instead they wish to have, but it says like most of us didn't have electricity until last December. And how could we run our TVs so that we could be part of the normal youth of the world? And so what is a normal life? As an example, like Elie Wiesel, the 1986 Nobel Peace Prize winner, he was a Jew during World War II, and he was kept in the Holocaust. He saw babies being thrown in the furnaces, but he survived from there. And he says, like, even though I saw moments where one came to die and many slaughtered, I still own a very normal life. It's because I'm drinking like a normal man, I'm eating, and just normal things. But what is normal life for us, for young Afghan youth? We say, I wish we knew Bart Simpson, just as an example. Only if we could play the violin, which we don't. The biggest dream would be watching FC Barcelona play against Real Madrid in a real game, to go with our daddy and sit down and watch the game. So instead, we think about core state building and policies, objectives. Like all these political changes happening in Afghanistan provides the environment of politics for the youth to be involved in, which again is not normal. And another thing, only 3 hours of school daily, nothing else to do throughout the day, because we don't have sport facilities in our high schools. We don't have after-school activities that the kids could take part in. But the possibility is, then why shouldn't we go to the madrasa or the mosques? For some, madrasa is a religious school, and Pakistan has tons of them. Most of the Talibans are trained in madrasas in Pakistan and sent to Afghanistan. And the reason they do is because they don't have anything in their school, and they say we could meet some friends there. The fact, in the street I'm living in Kabul city, there are 3 mosques in the street I live. And that shows a very huge influence of Muslim fundamentalists guided by Iran and Pakistan. And the clergies in the mosques are sent by Pakistan or Iran. There's also a madrasa nearby where I live. And that shows when the kids don't have anything to do, they obviously, some of them, not all of them, would eventually go there. And I've had friends who are super smart, but they go there. And what happens when they go there? So first step towards joining the terrorist groups like the Taliban. And this is an example of a madrasa. And they start going there, and then they would be so much tied with these groups, and then eventually they would join the terrorist groups, which is a sad thing. So many dangerous terrorists are the ones who are well educated. Osama bin Laden, he studied engineering in the US. They must know chemical reactions. This is also a funny example. They learn how to make all of these bombs because they know chemical reactions. And I've had some of my smartest friends who are total fundamentalists, who, if we don't have things for them, they would eventually join them. And the reason is, again, they don't have a normal life, they deprive a lot, and eventually they have to do something. So what can be done? And now, bringing the matter of containment, let's learn something from the US policy containment when they used it against communism. So I think we, like Afghans, can learn something from that. We can contain terrorism with something. And a good example here is what happens when there is a compost pile. So the basic thing that is, don't earthworms and little bugs show up and they start to decompose it. They just start working on it, and the compost pile becomes their house. And similar thing, then what happens if there's a tennis court in a high school? So basically, answer is some students play on it. It becomes their fun house. And this also means some students won't go to a madrasa if they play on the tennis court. So this is the first high school tennis court in Afghanistan. It was my project. I was an exchange student in Maine, and I was very inspired how my previous school had a lot of sport facilities for their kids in the high school. And when I went back this summer, I started this project to bring more sport facilities in order to provide some extra time for the youth to have in their school and spend together. So this is how we started. I had a lot of friends who volunteered on the first day to show up and build the court, and more pictures of that. But project was temporarily postponed because we didn't have enough money for fencing. We could only build the concrete. And when I got here, I introduced the project to United World College, and the students helped a lot. And now, right 4 days ago, November 15th, 2001, the fencing was built, and now the first tennis court is accomplished. So the door is open, the girls can go and use it, and to me, I just feel happy because something is accomplished. And another significant thing, thank you. So another significant thing is my youngest cousin. That's a photo of her. She experiences, this is significant because she experiences community service when she's only 4 years old. I learned the word volunteerism and community service when I got in the US last year when I was 16. And projects like this provide an opportunity for youngs to come together and start working for their country. This was the team. There's my dad, my brothers, and my cousins. And they did it. Some more facts. My first tennis court provided a 2-day job for 20 laborers, and it happens in a country where unemployment rate is 35%. Over 20 of my friends, girls and boys, showed up on the first day of construction to do community service, the spread of volunteerism. So projects like this provide an opportunity for people to come and experience volunteerism. So let's go back to where we started. Only a single tennis court does not take us to Mr. Bart Simpson or Mr. Fred Flinson. That means do not provide a normal life for the Afghan youth. We have way more to go. This is just a good start. More tennis courts must be built. And a quick note, tennis is among the many things we need to start in Afghanistan for the youth. Music and arts are very important. But little by little and step by step, we can get there. And also, now that you understand what deprivation is, do not forget what the Afghan boy says. And he says, "I wish to live without wars." Thank you so much.